So coding tutorials are kind of a big lie. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because I've watched a lot of people kind of fall into the trap of just doing tutorials over and over again, and they can't actually code anything for themselves. There's actually a term for this, it's called tutorial hell. But honestly, what's happening is you're watching someone else code for you and do the problem solving for you, and they're kind of presenting the code in a perfect state. So you don't really learn anything for yourself. But with that being said, there are a ton of pros to coding tutorials. So I'm not trying to bash tutorial makers out there. I have like 300 coding tutorials myself. But there is a certain type of coding tutorial that I think is more beneficial to watch. But before I jump into this topic, be sure to press that like button. Also, be sure to subscribe and press the bell icon if you want to get more videos like this in the future that should hopefully help you become a better web developer. So let's talk about some of the pros of coding tutorials, right? So I like using tutorials myself if I want to get a really high level overview of how something works. For example, recently I've watched tutorials about NFTs, cryptocurrency, IPFS, just to kind of get a good understanding of the high level overview of how these things kind of work, and then also get exposed to some of the terminology. So if I go and read a blog post or go and read the documentation, I'm not completely lost with all the terminology and keywords that are being thrown at me. So that's one thing I really find enjoyable about watching these 5-10 minute overview videos. And I don't know if they're really coding tutorials, but they're more just like overview videos. Additionally, another pro for coding tutorials is you actually get to watch someone code live, right? So when you're a beginner, you're kind of new to all this. You don't really know the best ways to use the IDE. You don't know the best ways to copy and paste code or to kind of navigate throughout your file editor. And watching someone else do it is actually a great way to understand. You learn shortcuts, you learn like how to use the terminal, how to use the file explorer, how to do fuzzy searching. But after you learned all these shortcuts, you need to actually understand how to do the problem solving. Problem solving is the main aspect of coding. And unfortunately, a lot of these perfectly crafted tutorial videos don't show that. Which leads me to my main point of coding tutorials are a lie, because most of these tutorials, if you actually think about it, someone has another monitor up and a lot of the code has already been written, and all they're doing is they're kind of following that code and just typing it up and explaining it along the way. A lot of tutorials actually copy and paste code into the editor and kind of explain what's going on. And there is a benefit to this approach. It makes the code videos much shorter. You can kind of digest as much information as possible. And this might work for some people, but in all honesty, if you're starting off, you need slower paced tutorials. You need someone who's actually coding live. A lot of these tutorials actually strip out all the debugging and they don't actually show you how do you problem solve. So I'd recommend that you keep that in mind when you're watching a tutorial. Make sure that the tutorial actually shows you how to debug. Make sure that they run into issues, because most tutorials out there, they show you the perfect form of code. They might run into like 1 or 2 bugs, but sometimes they're really simple syntax errors, like they forgot a semicolon or they forgot to add a comma. These aren't the real bugs that you run into with software engineering. And so what happens if you keep watching videos like that where people show you the perfectly crafted code is you don't actually learn how to debug for yourself. You don't learn how other software engineers go to Google, go to Stack Overflow, try to find answers, and how to use the debugger in their web browser, how to use the debugger in their VS Code editor. There's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes when it comes to building code and debugging code. And most tutorials just show you how to do something, right? They'll show you like, this is how you make a drop down. You do this, you add an event listener, you click this, you show this, that's it. Doing that stuff for yourself is much more valuable. So if you do watch videos that seem like they're really crafted and they have like all that fluff removed, what I recommend doing is pausing the video and building something out for yourself along the way to try to reach the point of what they're trying to do for you. So going back to the example, if they're trying to build you like a drop down and a menu, when they start creating up the project, pause the video, try to build up the structure yourself, try to build a header yourself, try to make a button so when you click it, it actually prints out a console log. And when you've actually implemented something, go ahead and resume the video and try to continue to go down the path that they're going, right? So don't allow them to show you the solution. Try to do the solution for yourself and then resume the video to kind of get guidance of like, okay, am I in the right path? Am I in the right direction? Or am I kind of totally going off left field over here? And I'll be honest, there's a lot of videos on my channel. I have like 300 coding tutorial videos, and a lot of them were kind of that situation where I coded up all the code beforehand, and I might just be kind of using another monitor to kind of type out and explain what I'm doing. I kind of got away from doing that. I just do live coding now, and I think that is the best way to teach, because I'm actually coding from like almost like you sat down next to me and I need to code something for business. I'm trying to actually implement the feature from memory or from going to Google, looking up the docs. I'll run into bugs. I'll show you how to debug those issues. Sometimes I'll spend 5 or 10 minutes trying to figure out how to solve an issue, which is one of the main reasons why a lot of these people strip away all of the debugging from their coding videos, because debugging can eat up a lot of your time. I know I've spent 8 hours trying to fix a really simple bug where I misspelled a variable. So if you don't see stuff like that in tutorials, you're going to think these people are just really good at coding. Coding is super, super easy for them and you're having issues. But honestly, all of us run into issues where we spend tons of time trying to debug. And if you're going to watch tutorials, I highly recommend find people who are doing live coding. Go to Twitch if you need to, but honestly, a lot of those people on Twitch are really advanced and they don't really break down the topics for a beginner. So instead, I would find a instructor or YouTuber who basically says, I want to build X, let's just do it from scratch. This is how you would set up the project. I don't know how to do this, so let's just go Google it. Let's figure this out. Yeah, so that's all I really wanted to talk about. If you're stuck in tutorial hell and you don't feel like you're actually learning along the way, maybe it's because you're watching the wrong type of tutorials, or maybe it's you're letting someone else do all the problem solving for you. Just remember, the only way to learn how to code is by coding yourself, right? It's like riding a bike. You're not going to learn how to ride a bike by watching other people do it. You got to get on the bike, you got to pedal, you got to fall a couple times. So when it comes to coding, make sure you code for yourself, run into bugs, debug those for a while by yourself before you try to go to a tutorial to teach you how to do it, or before you go and ask questions to have someone else solve the problem for you. You have to solve the problems yourself. You have to implement the applications yourself. All right, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Also, be sure to subscribe and press the bell icon if you want more videos like this in the future. That should hopefully help you understand how to become a better web developer. And also leave a comment below if you enjoy watching the short overview videos, if you like watching live coding, or if you like watching the tutorials that I talked about, which are kind of detrimental to your learning experience. Have a good day. Happy coding.